Good morning, welcome back to Math Maintenance. Today we are talking fractions. So a fraction is just representing part of a number. Remember, fractions fall somewhere between 0 and 1. They are a portion of that number, unless you have an improper fraction, but that's not what we're talking about today. So when we talk about fractions and we talk about portions of numbers, oftentimes what we want to do is put it in simplest form. So instead of saying to somebody, I have 4/8 or I need 4/8 of a cup of sugar, you would just tell somebody, I need half a cup of sugar. Simplifying the numbers down to their smallest values is a nice way or an easier way to work with the numbers so that we can kind of wrap our heads around it more easily. Our brain likes when things are simplified as much as possible. In order to simplify fractions, all you need to do is look at the top number and the bottom number and see if there's anything you can divide both of them by. So in my example of 4/8 of a cup of sugar, 4 and 8 can both be divided by 4. So when I divided 4 by 4, I got 1. And when I divided 8 by 4, I got 2. And so that's how I went from 4/8 of a cup of sugar to half a cup of sugar. Let's practice with the ones on the board. So if I'm saying I have 8/10 of something, I'm looking for a simpler way to say that. So I check 8 and 10, and I see that they're both even numbers. So I could divide 8 by 2, and I could also divide 10 by 2, and that would get me to 4/5. Now I check 4/5, because even though I found something to divide by initially, I don't know if I found the best thing to divide by. There might be something else that I could have tried. So 4/5, well, 5 is a prime number, which means it only divides by 1 and by 5. 4 is even, so I could still divide it by 2, but since I can't divide 5 by 2, this is the simplest form of that fraction. In my next one, 9/27, I know that both 9 and 27 divide by 3. So I could divide the top and the bottom number by 3, and I would get 3/9. Now I might like to think that I'm done because I did some division and that felt like a lot of work, but I need to check those numbers again to see if I can divide them out anymore. 3 and 9 can both be divided by 3 again. So I could divide 3 by 3 and 9 by 3 and get 3 divided by 3 is 1. 9 divided by 3 is 3. When I end up with a 1 on the top, I know for sure I'm in simplest form because that can't divide down any farther. 1/3 is the simplest form of 9/27. I want to show you a different way that we could have gone about that problem. If I had the fraction 9/27, I could have thought about in the first step that both of those numbers, top and bottom, divide by 9. 9 divided by 9 gets me to 1. 27 divided by 9 gets me to 3. In both ways, we got to the same answer. This one just took one step less. This is where knowing your multiplication and division facts come in really handy, because when I can see that both of these divide by 9, I can skip a step. If you're not there yet, it's okay. Do the multi-step approach where you keep breaking it down over time. 4/6. 4 and 6 are both even numbers, so I can divide top and bottom by 2. When I do that, 4 divided by 2 is 2. 6 divided by 2 is 3. The top number is still even, so I could try dividing by 2 again, but since the bottom number is a 3, I know that's not going to divide out. So 2/3 is the simplest form of 4/6. 12/16. Now here's one of those where I could think, well, both of them are even, so I could divide by 2, but I could also try to look for bigger numbers that they might be able to divide by to save myself some time. When I'm thinking about factors of 12, it divides by 2, by 3, by 4, by 6. When I'm thinking about factors of 16, it divides by 2, by 4, by 8. In both these numbers, I heard 4 as something I could divide by. 12 divided by 4 is 3. 16 divided by 4 is 4. I I check to make sure that's as simple as it can go, and I know that I'm done. If you didn't see the 4 right away, remember that you could always use the even route. Both are even, so they divide by 2. That would have got me to 6/8. Both of those were still even, so I could divide by 2 again, and that would have gotten me to 3/4. Both routes end up at the same answer. This one just takes 2 division steps instead of 1. 3/5. 3 is prime and 5 is prime. I know I'm not going to be able to divide them down. Sometimes fractions are just in their simplest form from the start. 30/90. Well, both numbers end in 0, so I know I can divide by 10. Let me do that right away to get some smaller numbers. Now I have 3/9. Factors of 3 are just 1 and 3. Factors of 9 are 1, 3, and 9. I heard 3 for both numbers. This gets me to 1/3. Simplifying fractions just takes thinking about what the factors are of the numbers and how I can go from bigger numbers to smaller numbers by dividing both the top and the bottom by the same number. In your packet today, you have this page called Simplest Form. All you're doing is looking at the left side of the sunglasses at the fraction and writing the simplest form on the right side. You might need some other paper or workspace if you'd like to write it out like I do, because there's not a lot of workspace on this actual page. Your digital activity today is in a Google Drawing. It's a fraction maze, so as you find the answers to different fraction problems, that will direct you how to work your way through the maze. Your manipulative practice today is those multiplication flashcards. It's really important that you get good at those skills because it will only help you in other parts of math. Good luck.